October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and local cybersecurity expert and Treetop security owner Dallas Haselhorst will be hosting some area events to help spread that awareness. He joins us to talk about the details of those events and more on this episode of the Post Podcast.
It's a whole month dedicated to, where the media, lots of folks like myself, professionals in the industry, kind of get together and make sure that everybody is aware of different topics that could affect them from a cybersecurity standpoint, whether that's ransomware, phishing emails, you name it, kind of goes over the full gamut of cybersecurity. And like I said, making sure that everybody's aware that it can happen to them.
Yeah, and it's like we've seen here in Hayes pretty recently, the district, I know you were a little bit involved in that recovery effort, but the district was hit, and we see scams almost every day over on Hayes Post.
Yeah, correct. I mean, we see, dealing with a number of businesses, number of individuals, the number of scams, the number of attacks, very, very good attacks, high-quality attacks, not just your typical spam emails. The number of attacks are getting really high and really good, really fast. So,
well, we got to talk about this because this is part of what Cybersecurity Month is about, right? It's raising that awareness. And I don't know, maybe we want to start with, can you tell us a little bit about this? We talked a little bit before we got on air here about this, and you were kind of letting me know that it kind of, at the time, it almost seemed silly, but now it's so important, right?
Yeah, when the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, is initially who started it, and there was a few government agencies that really got together, and it started off as just kind of a U.S.-based thing, and they quickly determined that this isn't just U.S., this is world, but they kind of picked up the mantle and kept it going, and as I was telling you, I'm not afraid to say that I was wrong. When I first heard about it, I thought, there's a month, there's a day, it's just ridiculous. Now we have a cybersecurity month, and, at the time, it didn't seem like that big of a deal. And now, obviously, it's something that affects every business, every individual. And if, it's not part of your day to day, brace yourself because it may be coming, right? So, yeah, it's definitely something that I'm happy that, our government has kind of stepped up to the plate and made sure that it's something that everyone is aware of.
Very cool. So let's talk about this. You've got some events that are coming up that are to get that message out there and kind of help steer people in the right way in terms of cybersecurity, right?
Yeah, correct. So as we've talked about before in the past, we had years ago, back in 2019, we had put together some cybersecurity awareness training, I should say a slide deck and some associated materials, and kind of gave that away for anyone in the world to really take back to their community, their businesses. We've seen that presentation in Gambia, the Philippines, all over the world. And since then, it's really, we continue to update it because the attackers update their techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So we continue to update it, every 6 months, sometimes every year, and release that in accordance with Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And, it's something that I like doing is, kind of, practice what you preach. So make sure that we're getting out in our own communities, in our own businesses here locally, to make sure that we're getting the word and spreading the, scams are out there. People are trying to scam you. People are trying to send phishing emails to you. These are some things that you can do to, keep them away from you. And so that's kind of what it is just, like I said, our way of making sure that we're not just telling other people to do it. We're actually doing it ourselves. And these are free in-person meetups. It takes about an hour doing one of them, at least one of them at the Hayes Public Library, and then a couple of them at Brief Space as well. And kudos to both of those organizations for recognizing the need for this. But it's hopefully get some people, get some butts in the seats, and like I said, help everyone understand that there are ways that you can prevent this.
Yeah. Are those events going to be evening events, daytime events, and do you have the days?
Yeah, we actually have a mixture of them just to make sure that we're kind of hitting on several things. And, the other thing I had told you before is we have a number of private ones already scheduled as well with different businesses and things like that. So if you are a business and, you have a number of folks, that can't make it to one of these, let us know. We'll come out and do a free one for you during the month as well. But yeah, the one on October 5th is 5:30 to 6:30 at the Hayes Public Library. On October 12th from 12 to 1 at Brief Space, and then October 18th from 5:30 to 6:30 also at Brief Space. And like I said, we'll see how those go. I know the public library said that they would love to have us back, assuming we get enough of a response. But yeah, we'll do these as many people as want us to show up. So no, not a problem at all.
Very cool. Love that. And yeah, especially for those business owners, I think about the risk if you don't have the systems in place. And like, for example, the company I worked for before I came back to Eagle here, it was a massive company, and we had a lot of problems with our credit card system network because if one site went down, just one site out of our 215, we couldn't take credit cards across the company, which would cost us millions of dollars an hour. And it would be that one guy in the operation that clicked the wrong email or whatever that brought everything to a screeching halt. And having that training was such an important thing. And I can't imagine with these smaller businesses that don't have those tech resources and those IT teams, getting that kind of information and that cybersecurity awareness to the crews are just so important.
Yeah, and that's really what the education piece, why it's so important, is that it really flips the script. I mean, you have, huge companies that are spending millions upon billions of dollars. And so, the little guys are going, well, what chance do we have? And so they just kind of throw their hands up. Well, actually, education and free education on top of that is really your best resource. I mean, I can't tell you the number of businesses that we work with where, somebody says, hey, this looks really odd. And the reason why they say that looks really odd is because they've had training that helps them indicate that there's just something really off about this email. I haven't received an email from UPS or whoever before. I haven't received an email from this person before. And now all of a sudden they're asking me to click a link. And so, they send it to us and we say, yeah, this is definitely a phishing email. Here's some things that we're going to do. Thank you for sending it. To make sure that we're alerting other people in the company then that, hey, this is a possibility. So there's a lot of benefits to doing that education. And more than anything, like I said, it flips that script, keeps your people from being the last line of defense to really one of the first lines of defense that you have.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most people when they envision these hackers, they imagine people like sitting at a keyboard, clicking, like what we see in a movie, right? But it's not that. It's you share the wrong thing with the wrong person, and then it's out there. And it's more that the attacks are more on the personal, the human side than the tech side.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. And there's always, I shouldn't say always, there's typically some aspect of email or getting you to click on something. There's almost always an aspect to that. But at the same time, we just saw huge events, cybersecurity events for Uber, for Rockstar Games. And both of those were a 17-year-old hacker, quote unquote, that had zero skills. It was 100% social engineering, had nothing to do with any sort of technical ability. They just had a lot of time on their hands. And guess what? They got access to a whole lot of things.
Wow. Makes me think of the old the movie War Games, where he gets the passwords to change his grades, and the password's on the principal's desk, so he gets himself in trouble to go read the password and hacks their system that way.
Well, that I regularly do penetration tests, pen testing, which is more of I get paid to go in and hack things, before the bad guys do it. And one of the first things that we do when you're walking through an office is you pull out the desk drawer, which you motioned. I know people, listening can't hear that. Pull out the desk drawer, look around for notepads, anything like that. Under the keyboard, a sticky note attached to the monitor. I mean, these are all favorite places for people to look and to store those things. So there's a reason why we're looking there.
So very similar
really
to this password that's on this monitor right here is what you're saying that every studio guest has seen that's come in here in probably the last 10 years.
I'm not going to look. I'm just going to assume you're telling me the truth. But yes, there's a reason why we do that. Not to be mean. It's because that's what the bad guys do.
And you never know. Like, I think it's sometimes not even necessarily the person that, shares the information. They're not thinking about that. They're if that makes sense, their mindset is it's going to be somebody else.
Yeah.
And then they inadvertently share that stuff. It reminds me of another story. I had an employee, he got scammed on one of those Western Union machines. And he literally had been the guy training other people not to be on the phone when you're dealing with the machine. But in that moment, he just didn't think of it.
Yeah. And it's, you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head. You think it can't happen to you, or, well, I didn't really give them any information. Well, what the social engineers do, they may call one time and say, hey, is your manager around? And you say, oh, well, my manager's Doug. He's not here right now. And so the next time they call back, they say, okay, is Doug there? Oh, well, let me transfer you over. And then Doug's voicemail says, I'm going to be out of the office from October 7th through October 14th. Please leave a message. And so then they hang up again. Then they call back, and on, say, October 8th, they call back and say, hey, Doug was going to be out of the office today, and he told me that I needed to do this, this, and this, but he forgot to give me his password. Is that something that we can take care of, like, right now? I mean, this is very urgent, needs to be done. Well, they're not going to call Doug on vacation. But here it was, 3 separate phone calls that all seem like, well, number one, I'm just giving somebody information that doesn't matter. Doug's just doing it to make sure other people knows that he isn't around during those times and to call somebody else. And then the third person's thinking that they're just being helpful. Well, it's in our human nature to be helpful. You don't want to see another human being struggle unless you're just mean. So, it's just part of our human nature that we want to help. And so, but that's what those people do is they go from one thing to the next, where any one of those things may seem pretty frivolous, by themselves, but you start putting those things together and it becomes a really huge deal.
Yeah, and too, from my understanding, a lot of these times these hackers get into these systems and they'll sit on it for a long time, waiting for that opportunity to maybe get the credit card number, or the bank statement, or whatever it would be to do more damage. But you might have it not even know. And I wonder if there's things you can do or things that people should be aware of on that side of it to, either go back and make sure they're still safe, or root out those system problems and correct it before it becomes the issue.
Yeah. So what you're referring to is what's called dwell time, which means attackers are already in the system and they're kind of waiting for their moment, whether that's to deploy ransomware. We've seen some instances with real estate realtors where they're needing to transfer large amounts of funds. And so they'll sit there for weeks, for months, and, have a rule, just like you would do on your Outlook or anything else, that you have a rule now that says, hey, can you transfer some funds to me? And, one of the better case ones was just a few months ago where 2 realtors, business partners, we need to move some money around. Hey, go ahead and transfer that to me. Oh, by the way, I just changed banks, so make sure that you send this to this account instead. Well, the attacker is the one that sent that, but then the attacker's also sitting there deleting those emails. So it's not till weeks later where you come back and say, hey, are you ever going to send that to me? And it's, well, yeah, I did, like 2 weeks ago, right when you told me to, I sent it. So yeah, the attackers, they have time on their side. So yeah, unless you're looking for these things, unless you're aware of them and really going back and trying to tighten your security, do multi-factor authentication, all things that we cover in the training, unless you're doing those things, yeah, your time is probably coming, unfortunately.
Yeah, and one of the real unfortunate things that I've seen with a lot of these scams is once the money's gone, and it's usually money, right? it's gone. It's overseas. There's no, you can call every law enforcement agent in the country. Nobody has the ability, the time, or the resources to go track down, say, $6,000 that was stolen in Gambia. It's just not going to happen.
Well, and it's happening so frequently that unfortunately, like you said, $6,000 is a lot to you and I. $6,000 is nothing in the grand scheme of things in some of the cases that they're working. They're dealing with, hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars. And so your $6,000 that you got scammed out of, that maybe you're not going to be able to eat and make your mortgage payment and your car payment, it's really kind of small potatoes in the grand scheme of things, unfortunately.
Yeah. So sounds like for people, the first step or the best step they can take right now is getting into one of these sessions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's free. It is one of the best things that you can do. If you say, well, I don't have, thousands of dollars to spend on security right now, you will after something happens, unfortunately. But, the biggest thing is, just get in there, get some education. It's not gimmicky. We're not pitching anything. It is things that every home user, every business user can use in their day-to-day. Even if you think, oh, well, my IT folks have everything taken care of, it's still, like I said, is helpful from that perspective and the business perspective, but also still help protect you at home. So,
very good. October 5th, 12th, and 18th, right?
Correct.
Library on the 5th. Breathe on the...
Brief space.
Brief space.
Yeah.
On the 12th and the 18th.
Although I do like my breathe cough. Shout out to Pat.
Yeah, absolutely. I make that trip a little too frequently, probably, for my budget. But Dallas, if they want to book those private sessions, what's the easiest way to reach out to you guys?
Yeah, probably the easiest way would be through our website, or just send something to info@treetopsecurity.com. That goes to myself and a handful of other folks, and we can get something scheduled up for you. But yeah, that's not an issue at all. Like I said, I'd much rather be on this side of things than have to come in and help with something.